Welcome to week 2 of the Every Bit Counts challenge. Let me show you what we're doing today. I've been waiting to do this project ever since we got our first harvest of elderberries. We're gonna make elderberry syrup. I'm so excited. So I have here, these are the ones we've harvested from the garden. They're sort of like semi-dry from like sitting out. So we have about a half cup of berries here total. That's awesome. And then here in this bowl are elderberries that we just went and foraged from just like the roadside here, local. There were a ton. And don't worry, I left plenty to go to seed and for others. So like this is just a small amount of what was growing out there. So there are still some green ones on there, and I'll just get the purple ones off and then I'll measure that out, and then I'll give you guys the recipe that I'm using this time around. So here we have 1.5 cups of fresh elderberry. Some of them were like partially dried because we just sort of left them out to air dry when we would get a little bit from the garden, but they weren't like fully dry. So to that we're going to add 3 cups of water, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and now we're just going to bring this syrup to a boil. All right, y'all, now that we're boiling, I just turned the heat down. I will continue to occasionally stir, but I'm going to put a lid on this for 40 to 45 minutes until it has reduced by half. All right, y'all, the syrup has now reduced down, and now I'm going to take this strainer and strain all the berries out, and then I'll show you guys what we do with the juice afterwards, and what you can also do still stuff with the berries. So don't throw them out. We're going to do something with them too. This syrup is now strained. There are still some small pieces in there, so I'm going to run it through a smaller strainer in a minute, going into a jar. But first we're going to mix in 1 cup of raw honey. That's John doing parchment paper behind me. Nice and stirred up. Let's get that all mixed in really well. And then what we're going to do is, I have a jar here. I think it's going to fit in a quart jar. If not, I'll switch it to a 1/2 gallon. And then I'm going to use, I have a canning funnel here, and then this is a reusable coffee filter. So we use reusable coffee filters to strain our raw milk. I'm hoping it's not too thin. We're going to see. I'm going to try it. If it's too thin, I'll find something else. But I'm hoping to get the rest of those little pieces out of the syrup. All right, so that fits in a quart jar perfectly. And coffee filter did not work. It got clogged up right away with that thick syrup. And so I just got this little fine mesh strainer out that did the trick. So there we go. We have our elderberry syrup, and that will last in the fridge for 2 months. Now, if you were making a larger batch, I believe you can can this, but I just used what we had today, and this is our first batch ever of elderberry syrup. I'm so happy with that. All right, y'all, so with these berries that are cooked, I'm just gonna spread them out on this parchment paper lined baking sheet. It's hard to do with one hand. And then I'm gonna dry them in the oven at the lowest temperature. It says 24 hours, but I'm gonna keep a really close eye on these because I don't want them to burn. I think our oven's lowest temperature is like 140, but most people's is 170. So we'll see how that happens. But I did read that you can use this in loose leaf tea. It is Tuesday, and we're finally getting into a canning project. I know canning is a lot of what people do during the Every Bit Counts challenge. We just haven't done one yet. This is our 4th project, and we're finally getting into the swing of things. We were sort of trying to take it easy the first couple days because we have this huge Azure order coming with a lot of stuff to ferment and can. So today we're canning beef broth. Yes, I know it looks a little fatty, a little chunky. We don't like to strain ours too much. We like to keep as much of that good stuff as we can on there. So that's been strained through it wasn't strained through a fine mesh strainer, is what I'm trying to say. It was strained through a very small hose. And then I have 7 quart jars here getting ready to fill those. This is nice and hot. And then we're going to add onion to that before we can it in a pressure canner. All right, we got our beef broth in the jars with the onions. clean the rims, put on lids, measured headspace, all that. We're gonna go ahead and put it in this canner now that it's pretty much heated up to the same temperature as the liquid in the jars. And we're gonna process this at 10 pounds of pressure for 25 minutes. There's still a lot of broth left over. Mom made a lot last night. So it was great because we got rid of all of those bones in the freezer. And the best part, they have a lot of meat on them. So I need to get all that meat off of them so we can use that for something else. Plus you can see while the canner's running, I went ahead and checked on these and they are nice and dry after being in the oven for about 24 hours. So I'm gonna go ahead and store these. We got 7 quarts canned, and then we decided to, with what was left of the broth, just go ahead and freeze it. So we have a couple quarts of frozen broth too. I think that turned out really nice. I love having the onion in there, little pieces of meat. It just makes it exactly what we like, how we like it. It's nice and dark, good color.
Hey y'all, today is day 7 of the Every Bit Counts challenge. It's going by so fast already. Today we are processing those mangoes that we got from Azure Standard. We'll put the link for that below if you want the mangoes. We got them for like $1.70 a pound. They're beautiful. They were not overripe, which I was worried about. We are going to turn that into a mango salsa. And the recipe that I'm using, let me look, comes from the National Center for Home Food Preservation. So I know it's safe. So we're going to try out this recipe. It calls for 6 half pints, but I can't think of anything that I would ever use in my family in a half pint. We're just too big. So we're gonna make them into pints. And let me show you what we got done so far. So here are the fresh ingredients that we have chopped so far. We have red bell pepper, onion, and then the diced mango. Now the 10 pounds of mango that we bought from Azure gave us 10 cups diced. We needed 12, so we'll be a little short on the mango side, but I don't think that'll be a problem. Look at how beautiful that is. And Brooke is over there getting the garlic ready. So the garlic is fresh from our garden. Not fresh, but it's from our garden. The onions were from our garden. You know where I got the mango from, and the peppers I just bought locally because I don't have any red peppers in my garden right now. All right, Brooke's gonna go ahead and put the garlic in and these other fresh ingredients that we chopped into a big stock pot. If you're doing the recipe that they call for, you only need an 8-quart Dutch oven, but because we're doubling it, I figured it was just safer to go with the stock pot. Okay, and we also need a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. That's 2 cups of brown sugar going in. Then we need 2.5 cups of cider vinegar. So we make our own cider vinegar, but when we can, we use the Azure apple cider vinegar. And I'll link to that too, just because we're worried about acidity. You never know. I mean, we have the strips to test, but I'd rather just be safe. The recipe also calls for ginger, but there's a good amount of people in our home that do not like ginger. I think it's gonna taste fine without it. We also need a cup of water in there. So this is the apple cider vinegar that we use specifically for canning. All right, we have that going on high now, and once it boils, we're just gonna simmer it for 5 minutes. In the meantime, we're gonna get our pint jars ready. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. Oh, yum, yum. Beautiful. Okay, so we're gonna fill these pint jars. You waiting for some salsa to fall? It's probably too spicy for you, baby boy. You waiting patiently, hoping for some scraps? You think there's gonna be salsa for you? So that recipe was super close. There are 6 full pints and then a little bit left over that we'll just put in the fridge and eat. That will not go to waste. And Brooke's just evening them out a little bit. Okay, so we wiped all the rims and we're putting them in our water bath canner. We're processing for 15 minutes. Is that correct, Brooke?
Yeah, so the recipe says 10, and I'm gonna do pretty much with every quart to pint recipe, they add 5 minutes, or pint to quart, so I'm gonna say it's the same with half pint
Right.
2 pints, and I'm gonna say we need to add 5 minutes on 115.
Yeah. And it is the end of the night, and we did end up with 6 pints of the mango salsa, and we are just getting ready to sit down and enjoy that little bit that we had that was not going to fit into a whole container.
Today is day 8 of the Every Bit Counts challenge. We are doing cherries today. So we got 3 18-pound boxes from Azure Standard. This bowl here, though, is our ones that Mom pitted last night. She pitted 1 whole box while she had time. And we're going to be doing multiple projects with these. But we're going to start with 7 canned quarts. Now we go very low sugar on canning the cherries. And I'm going to show you guys how we do that today. So I'm going to start by filling all these jars with these pitted whole cherries, leaving an inch of headspace.
Look, we even got Dad in on the action. Well, he is cherrying my face.
Hannah, you having fun?
Yeah.
Well, you have messy hair.
Which one?
That one. That one? You just put on.
No, it's fine.
Fine. Daniel's helping, Hannah's helping. I think I said we were going to do a low sugar recipe. It's what we did last year, but we changed our minds. We've been getting more brave with doing no sugar recipes this past year or so. And so this is another honey water syrup. So it's 10 cups of water and 3 cups of honey. I just heated this up, and I'm going to fill the cherry jars with the syrup. All right, y'all, the next project that we're doing, my canner is done here. I'm about to get those out. But the next project that we're doing is cherry fruit leather. So this is 4 cups of cherries, 1/4 cup of water. And most people do sugar in their fruit leather, but we're gonna do 1/3 cup of sucanat. We're gonna try that out and see how that turns out. We are done all these cherries processing. That was a lot of cherries. So let me just sum up what we did. We have the 7 quarts of cherries and honey. I don't think I mentioned how long to process those, so it's 25 minutes in a water bath canner. And then we did cherry jam. So we have 5 jars here. I will link that recipe, but in that recipe she doesn't say how long to water bath can it, so it's 15 minutes. Then we have cherry barbecue sauce. We only did 3 pints because we wanted to definitely try it before making more than that. And I will also link that recipe. These are also processed for 15 minutes in a water bath canner. And then finally, we made cherry fruit leather in our oven. I believe I showed mostly how to do this. I showed you all the ingredients. Pretty much then we just cooked it down until the cherries are nice and soft, pureed it, dumped it out on a baking sheet, spread it out nice and thin and evenly, and then baked it at the lowest temperature, so 170 in your oven, for 5 hours. Rotate the pans until they're nice and dry, but still just a little bit tacky. So once this completely cools off, I will go ahead and cut these and roll them up and put them away. It's day 9 of the Every Bit Counts challenge, and today we are doing cabbage. So we got all of this cabbage from Azure Standard. If you want to see our haul, I'll leave that linked. We're gonna I started making coleslaw. So we're gonna can this. So this is just, right now I have shredded cabbage, carrots, onions, and salt, just sort of sitting in a bowl. And then Bailey's mixing up the brine so that we can work on that. Someone's trying to get up at the table. That's why you hear the puppy crying. And then with these, I'm going to do sauerkraut, and then we still have some in the fridge that we may turn into, we have this freezer meal we really like, and one of the main ingredients is cabbage. So we're going to turn these 10 into sauerkraut, and then I have some jalapenos here from the garden because we like our sauerkraut spicy. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm probably going to put out a recipe video for how to do sauerkraut really soon. I got 7 quarts of sauerkraut done. We're just going to leave that out to ferment before moving it to the refrigerator, and that'll take a few days. So, but it looks really nice. I'm super happy with the turnout. So besides the 7 jars of sauerkraut, we also canned 3 jars of coleslaw, and then I had half a can that I just put in the freezer with the brine, and then we also had some extra brine, so we may be making some more coleslaw next week. We'll have to see about that. So what did you preserve over the week for the Every Bit Counts challenge? Make sure you guys share in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you, and if you have a channel, we will probably go over and watch because we've been trying to get ideas and inspiration. Otherwise, make sure you like this video, share it out, and subscribe. We'll see y'all next week.